Another worthless degree. That's what we're going to talk about today. As promised, yesterday we talked about the PhD. Today we're going to talk about the master's degree in business. I have a lot more street cred on this one because I actually do have a master's degree in business, an MBA. So I have some good things to say about it. But just to clarify, yesterday I do not think a PhD is worthless. In fact, I think an MBA is far more worthless than a PhD is. I think PhDs can be very beneficial to the right people that have good biblical foundations, and it can also be something that absolutely ruins you. And it's a reflection on the person, not the PhD itself or the program. And I hope that's abundantly clear. Welcome to How to Build a Tent. My name is Matt Williams. Thank you for listening to the show, sharing the show with a friend, tagging people, commenting, sharing, all those things. I really appreciate it. We're part of the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Go to flfnetwork.com, put an HTBT in a memo field. Get tons of great benefits. Oh, man. It's kind of sad that we don't have a conference right around the corner anymore. But we will next year. The politics of sex. That's what we're going to be talking about next year. And oh, man, it's going to be good. We're also kicking around. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, so don't get all excited. Kicking around the idea of doing a business, I don't know what you call it, like an attachment, a mini conference before the Fight Laugh Feast conference. So it's like an add-on. Get there a day early, and we'll do business talk at the conference. And if you'd be interested in that, I'd love to hear from you and just like, hey, I'd be interested. That's all you need to say, just so we can get a tally of if it's worth doing or not, because, you know, it's a risk taking and renting out a space, and hopefully people will come. So if you'd be interested in doing something like that and the things that you would like to learn about and talk about, yeah, let me know. That'd be great. You can email me, Matt at howtobuildatent.com. Find me on all the social media sites, How to Build a Tent. Now, gosh, I don't know where to even start with this. I got my MBA at Pepperdine University, a pretty good school, and I actually loved the classes. I loved the professors. I invested in my education. I didn't just check out, but I actually built relationships with people there. Some of my greatest friends I met during this program. Some of my mentors early on were professors from there. I still keep in contact with some of my professors. And when I say I think an MBA is worthless, I really should say valueless. And this goes back to our very first episode of How to Build a Tent, 503, 2, 1 ago. Which, you know, if you want to give me anxiety, there's very few things in life that will give me anxiety. Telling me you're going to go back and watch the first few episodes of this show give me so much anxiety because I was terrible. I mean, the content was pretty good. If I do say so myself, a lot of it is actually what I've learned in my master's. But the delivery, oh my goodness, I don't know if it's that good, quite honestly. But the content is good. In the first show, I believe it's the first show, I talk about value, and I have a little formula for value. That is the benefit minus the cost equals value. How much benefit that can be tangible, intangible. If that is greater than the cost, the purchase, the time, whatever it is, then that is valuable for you. And it's a simple equation that I think could be applied in every area, in every different situation at a very high level. And so when I say an MBA is worthless, I'm saying the value is actually negative. I think there are benefits to an MBA. There are lessons, there are things to learn, skills to acquire. There's people to meet. There's great professors. Those are all very true. Those are benefits that you do get from an MBA. And it's also a stamp, a certification. I mean, we make fun of education for being nothing but a stamp. College is just being a certification system, but there's something to that. Sometimes there are businesses, there are opportunities you will get, and I have gotten in the past from having that MBA. But the cost of that MBA is atrocious. It is so much higher, in my opinion, than the benefits that you would be getting from it. An MBA doesn't teach you how to start a business. An MBA doesn't tell you and teach you the soft skills on how to work with people, how to lead people. It gives you ideas and theories. It gives you psychological definitions, but it doesn't give you practice for the most part. I mean, some of the classes, like our negotiating classes, gave me good practice, and those are beneficial. But the cost, some of them hundreds of thousands of dollars when you add it all up together. I don't think the benefit is there to even break even. I got this question. I get this question a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you have this question as well. How do I teach my kids to be good at entrepreneurship? How do you teach people to be good at business, to have that business mindset? And they're looking for the tips, they're looking for experiences and those kinds of things. And the truth of it is that everything you need to learn about business, or I should say, all the basic principles of running a business, you can learn in the family. You have to manage your finances. You have a finance department. You have to balance your books. You have to balance that checkbook. That's such an old-fashioned term nowadays. But you have to make sure that you are spending less than what you're taking in. You have to evaluate and decide where you're going to spend that money. That's finance. That's a business finance. You are making sure that you are taking in more money than you're spending. You're deciding what to invest in and what return on investment is at a very high level. It's the very same things you do in your family. You market in your family. You do it not as often as you would necessarily for a business, but you do it when you go out for an interview. You do it in your job when you're looking for a promotion. You're constantly putting out a brand image of yourself. You're constantly making relationships and trying to make sales on who you are and your career and the value you can make. That is marketing and sales. What you post on social media, even if you don't intend to, is going to be picked up by people and evaluated on if they buy your product or service that you're selling as a family. Marketing is there. So you have all of the things, in my opinion, operations to management, managing people, your kids, all of that stuff is there. The one thing that I think you need to teach your kids to be good at business, to be good at entrepreneurship, is learning how to deal with failure. And I was talking with someone from my MBA, actually. He's a billionaire. And he was saying that his family would celebrate failures. Not that they were encouraging failure, they were trying to succeed. But the culture of their family was celebration of failure, because that means you were trying something. That means you were growing. That means you stretched out and were trying to figure something out. The definition of growth, of learning, is failing. Because if you fail, if you knew how to do something that you failed at, you wouldn't have failed, because you would have been successful. But you realized something that you didn't know before, and now you know, hopefully, what to do next time. And you can learn and navigate through those failures. So to be an entrepreneur, to start a business, the skills you can learn just everyday life. Businesses are an outgrowth of your family. Either as you as an individual going out and working, it's a function of that, or it's you guys having a family business or whatnot. But the thing that I think people need the most is the comfortability and the intelligence, and not necessarily intelligence like IQ, but the emotional intelligence to be comfortable in the failures and use that as a learning experience to become better. All right, back to MBAs. So what is an MBA actually good for? It can review and summarize the different things that are going on in a business. It can talk to you. You can learn more about marketing. You can learn more about finance. But the things that I even learned in finance and accounting, they're not necessarily applicable to today. The concepts are there. You learn about the balance sheet, your income statement, your cash flow statements. Funny story is for our test in accounting back then, we had old school professors. We had to write them out by hand. We couldn't use computers. But that's not the real world. You don't need to learn those things in the real world. You have QuickBooks. You don't need to go to get your MBA to be an expert at marketing. You can go start your own business. You can YouTube. You can read books. There's very few things that you can't out hustle and learn yourself outside of the MBA program there's very few things that you can learn that you can't learn on the outside for far less money. You can learn far more. Let's just say an MBA costs $100,000. I believe that you would be better off and learn more and have more experience instead of giving that $100,000 to Pepperdine or to whatever college there is to take that $100,000 and start a business. You will learn more about business than you would at an MBA for $100,000. I firmly believe that. And that's why I think it's much more of a worthless degree than a PhD, because a PhD is actually valuable and tangible, and it makes you think through things, and you get mentored, and you have a prominence that comes with it. And I think that an MBA really just isn't that for you. So if you're considering an MBA, ask yourself what your goals are, and then ask yourself, can you achieve those goals without it? It might be a little harder, but it's probably not going to cost as much if you go another route. If you can get by, if you're starting a business, you don't need an MBA. Most likely, if you are just going to try to get to a manager level or VP level, you probably don't need an MBA. I don't even know if by the time if you're my age in your mid 30s and you're positioning yourself for a big publicly traded company C-level position, by the time you get there in 20 years, I don't even know if you'll need it then. But this is why I got it, and this is probably a dumb reason to get it, is I wanted to get to a place where if I was in my 40s and 50s and about to be considered for a C-level position, if all things else being equal, I didn't want to get passed up for that opportunity because I didn't have an MBA. And really, that's such a ridiculous, foolish thing to think about, because you should be able to get to that point and be able to prove your value. I don't think people are really going to care, quite honestly. If you have earned that position, if you've built rapport with the people that are going to hire for that position, having an MBA or not is not going to make or break that deal. That's what I believe. And so I'm asking myself, what is an MBA worth? What is it worth? And I can't find a real good answer for it. I definitely know it's not worth how much they're charging for nowadays. I definitely know that. So I hope I saved you a few bucks. If you have any questions about that with business and the family and value and want to talk about this more about the MBA, I'm more than happy to talk to you guys about it. I don't want you guys to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on an education system that's, quite honestly, going to look completely different in the next 5 to 10 years. And so why would you go get that certification, that diploma, that degree, when it may not mean anything in the next 5 to 10 years because of the transformation of education? All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. God bless.